All right, guys, welcome to Earnings Palooza, almost the last day of Earnings Palooza. My goodness, what a day and week really for earnings. So it's enough earnings reports to make your head spin with as much information that is coming out in such a short amount of time. So if you're a little bit overwhelmed, I would say it's absolutely normal. There is so many names that are reporting in a given day, and some big moves taking place. Certainly we saw that last night with Facebook. It's funny because I recorded the video last night around 4:30, and then obviously more information came out, and the stock really went lower. And man, there was so many. If you kind of, if you're on Twitter and if you're going through the thoughts, it sounded like everybody, death to FANG stocks, and very much an over dramatic move. The couple just quick bullets that I'll say about this and what people were kind of thinking with Amazon. First of all, just like Netflix, these names are up so much year to date. So I view for a lot of these names that are up, remember Netflix was up 100% going into their earnings report. So at that point, what else are you really looking for in the stock? Same thing with Facebook. Facebook, ramped like crazy into their earnings report. And at that point, the risk is what I always say is the risk is to the downside. There's not much really good news that is going to make the stock go up, further through the roof. The risk is that they're going to miss something, and the stock could potentially go down. It's just much more of like a statistical, more of probability that if a stock is up 100% year to date or whatever, 50% year to date, and they come out and for earnings, and they don't hit every single point on their earnings quarter, it's going to be messy. Or if they come out and they guide lower, right? So you really just have to be cognizant of your risk going into these events. It's not death to granted, Facebook is a huge company, so it's not the equivalent of, EA's down after hours, right? On some guidance misses, but it's not the same thing, considering that a lot of funds, Facebook is a pretty widely owned stock. It's a large stock, but I think people were really worried about Amazon. Of course, me too. I didn't want to see Amazon whiff on their report because they're a huge stock as well. It's a very when stocks have run up as much as names like Amazon and Facebook and Netflix and some of the other names, it does get to be a little bit worrisome if they don't come out and hit. So their numbers, by the way, kind of an interesting quarter because normally you don't see this type of disparity between the numbers. So they had a huge EPS beat on the bottom line, right? So the EPS is on the bottom line. They had a profit of 507. I think they were expecting 249, right? So that's a huge monster number compared to what the expectations were. However, on the top line, which a lot of people are more often than not focused with the sales, they missed their expectations on the sales. That's why you don't see the stock going through the roof right now, and taking out the highs. Granted, look at the number. Could you imagine making $52 billion a quarter? I mean, it's pretty nutty, to think about that. But that did miss. 53.45 was what they were looking for. So they actually missed on the sales side. Their guidance is light as well. So they're downplaying guidance a little bit. And I think really what's keeping the stock up is the EPS number, which is not usually how it works, but they beat so largely on the EPS number. That's why the stock is hanging in there. If they didn't, if that EPS number was closer to just meeting expectations, probably Amazon stock would be falling here. But that EPS number, I think, keeping them afloat. It'll be interesting to say, obviously, what they say on their earnings call. Okay, so that's that. I could go over some of the other names that reported. I mentioned EA. This one is down. Their guidance was poor. It's going to take me a second because I've got too many systems open right now. But EA is down. Intel. Intel, sorry for the pause. 17 billion versus 16.79. I don't know why they're trading down so much, because it looks like they put up some pretty good numbers. So that's that. Intel. Right, so they're down a little bit. So I'll go over a couple of the misses first. Lam Research, their guidance was really bad. They had decent numbers. To just go through what else? First Solar missed, so they're moving down. I think also guidance an issue there. Now names that did well, Chipotle. Chipotle kind of gave a little bit of a fake out. The first number that came off the news wires was that they missed. And then they came out with adjusted EPS, which I'm not sure what their adjustment is. But 287 versus 276, and they're with the restaurants, it's always the comp sales, 3.3 versus 2.7. So really, really nice numbers for Chipotle. And then I would say probably the winner of earnings after after hours, because we're just covering names that reported after the close, is probably Expedia. Whoops. I can't type. It's been a long day. Come on, company news. There we go. 463 versus 379. Look at that beat by Expedia. 288. They matched on looks like the revenues, but the EPS was a crusher. And look at what. So I'll bring up Expedia. They're so really a nice beat. Where they close around 125.60, and they're up to 139. You could see that it's giving some of the other travel names a boost. Booking is up. TripAdvisor is also up after hours. So I'm trying to. So nice. All right. So there's Amgen is another one on the nicey nice side. I think Edwards just came out. Edward Life Sciences looks like they're moving down. Look at all the look at all those VPOCs taken out. All those version point of controls. Boom, 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 boom. Remember, the stock has gone up pretty decently. It kind of reminds me what happened to ABMD last night, which I believe has come back. Again, just another example of a name hitting a 52-week high going into earnings. Take your profits. And again, the reason why I say this, this video, first of all, is for information purposes only. I'm not giving advice or anything like that. But when you have a name do that into earnings, like we've had a bunch of names, what else do you think is going to happen, after earnings? You think they're going to go up another 20%? Like, how likely is that? So again, trading trading is about being smart and not being too greedy. Really, it's in this market, I think we're getting a lot of big intra-market days. I was talking about and I was tweeting about the move in retail this morning. At one point, the XRT ETF, which was the equally weighted retail ETF, was up 2.3% today, and then all of a sudden it turns on a dime. So, I don't think unless I'm missing something, there's not really a great gauge of intraday volatility when a name basically will be up 5% and then ends the day flat, or ends the day up only 1%, or starts the day negative and closes in the green. But if you're a day trader in this stuff and you're very good at day trading, you're certainly getting a lot of opportunities. But a lot of things just sometimes just appear to be, not every day, but I think we saw this 2 days ago. They're turning on a dime. This is IWM, which was up at 1.1% today. And then just right before 11 o'clock, just completely reverses as fast as it goes up. So this is not the usual price action. And what does that mean, right? So number one, we do have a ton of names, as I said in the beginning of the video. We have a ton of names that are reporting. So there's a lot of herky-jerky moves this week, and probably will be in the beginning of next week too, when more names report. There's a lot of information that has to be processed in the market. So I am blaming earnings season for some of these moves that we're seeing intraday. How, as a trader, do you adjust from this? It's a couple things. It's watching your risk, maybe not taking as big as position size as you normally do, and then also making sure that you're taking targets. You can't just sit in a position right now. I traded. So what did I trade today? I traded Nike, which actually did very well. There wasn't much of a reversion in the stock today. So I immediately went to Nike. It's been a name that's been on my radar for a couple days. I haven't traded it. I just been kind of watching it after the positive earnings report that they had. And Under Armour came out today, and their numbers were pretty good. I don't know where they finished. They may have given back some of the profits for the day. Let's see how that Under Armour chart looks. Yeah, they finished up 4.5%. Notice they did not reclaim the 50-day moving average or the value area. So nice to see them up 4.5%, but I think they've got more work to do from a technical basis. They've got to get back above the 50-day moving average. Maybe wait for an MACD crossover on Under Armour as well, but definitely I think a stock and a chart to watch. But with them showing good numbers, I thought Nike was going to do very well. I also went long Lulu. Right, so this is how you. So this is a good example, and I like to give real examples. I don't like to say after the fact stuff. I like to actually give you what I did for the day. So I'll bring up my blotter for the day, and you could see exactly what I did. I actually had a really good day today, given that I think for the Qs down 1.5%, SPYs down. I was up money today, so that's a victory. Yeah, so first thing I went into, and I sent out the chart for members if you're not a member. But I got in at 115. I also bought Lulu. I thought they both could run. So what did I do? I took some targets in Nike. I took 2 targets. I think at the end of the day it was marking around 170. So that's a nice little trade that I put on for the day. But Lulu wasn't working. So I got out of Lulu, and not every trade in this market, you cannot sit in every trade, especially if you're these are August calls that I put on. These are not long-term plays. I'm looking for a pop, and to get out of things. I'm not going to sit and say and be stubborn and be like, oh, I got to get this trade to work. No. I got the winner in Nike. I don't need to get the winner in both. If I can get out for at cost in a trade that didn't work, or a small loser, so be it. Which is basically what I did. I had some nice earnings trades yesterday. ROP, 293 call spread out at $8, paid $3. I also bought a couple names on the after hours yesterday, which was PayPal was just 50 shares. It's a high price stock, so I'm not going to buy 200 shares of that stuff. Same thing with ServiceNow. I made $10 on a 50 lot, so it's $500. So that's a nice trade. I thought the ServiceNow numbers were great. That's why I bought that on the weakness yesterday. And then you got to get out of some other trades. So I'm going to be giving a webinar on, I believe, Saturday. If it's not Saturday, it's going to be in the beginning of the week. And I'm going to be talking about using short-term options, the positives and the negatives, and being able to manage trades, and a whole bunch. I've got a whole bunch of things to kind of go over. It's going to be a great subject to cover. I think so many retail traders trade short-term options, but they probably do it too much. So I'm going to talk about a lot of strategy about trading short-term options, how I trade it, how I've made mistakes in it, and how I've done very well in it. We'll cover both sides of it. There's short-term options have a lot of positives and have a lot of negatives. All right, so that is there's a bunch of other names that I could be going over too, but I think that's it for now. I like to keep these videos under 15 minutes. Let's just see where Amazon is before I shut down. It looks like it's hanging in there. All in all, I think this is great. I really do. The people who probably did well in this is the ones who sold premium, both put spreads, maybe call spreads, selling both. Probably made a decent amount of money. I put my views on Amazon before the number. I think so many people are reluctant to put their views out there until it's already known. I saw a bunch of people doing that last night with Facebook. Didn't see them post a thing about Facebook all day long, and then afterwards, everybody putting their opinion. So I frown on that. So I put my opinion on what I did in Amazon. You could check my Twitter feed around 2:30, 3 o'clock today, somewhere around there, and I put what I did. So that's it. I'm not today's option activity, which I didn't even talk about. Not much really going on. A couple small plays. A lot of earnings related things going on, so really not a lot to kind of jump up and down about earnings. Sorry, option flow today. All right, guys, thanks very much. Have a great night. And again, look out for that webinar that I'll be giving on Saturday. Take care. Good night.